Welcome to 1000 PS TV. We've managed to get our hands on the new 2025 Hornet, but not the 1000. No, this is the 750, the real killer machine, which they've already given a light update. We've put it through its paces. Stay tuned.
What has happened? What are we fighting for? Now we can't go back and we can't move on. No point to pretend anymore. All I did was wait for the ship to me. I it was only a matter of timing. I never needed you around in, but we keep running round and round. I've been down there looking for the silver lining, but no matter what we always find it. So maybe you should just get lost.
Saying we put it through its paces was a bit of nonsense, really. I mean, it fits in a way, but this time we're kitted out like proper TV presenters. Luis hooked us up. You can see this MTR carbon helmet, which costs an unbelievable €199. Absolute madness. Fits me brilliantly, I have to say. And then a first for me, a textile Vanucci jacket. With this heat, I thought it was absolutely brilliant to have textile with proper ventilation slits. Costs €250, so really affordable. And then I've also got some Fastway motorbike trousers on, which go for €100 or €99 to be precise. So yeah, I'm properly kitted out, but really, really affordably, very affordably. And that brings us nicely to the Hornet 750. Because when it came out 2 years ago, it hit the market like a bombshell. It absolutely smashed it. It was an insanely good bike at a ridiculously low price. They really went all in with the price tag. And that sensational price, Honda's kept it for 2025. In Austria, it's €8,999, obviously pricier than in Germany. And in Germany, just €8,899. Seriously, an incredible deal. The bike was a hit right out of the gate, but it did have a few small weaknesses. In terms of value for money, it was unbeatable. Still, if you approached it with a proper sporty mindset, there were a few little things that could be improved. So what have they changed for 2025? First off, the front end. That's obviously the first thing you notice. They've made it a bit more aggressive and it's got dual LED headlights now. So that's full-on modern top-spec stuff. It goes really well with the new 5-inch TFT display, which is now easier to read, and something that doesn't matter to me at all, but is apparently very important for most people. It now has smartphone connectivity. And yeah, just to be honest, I didn't try that out. I'll be straight with you, I didn't test that part. What I did do, though, was ride it a lot and hard. So I can tell you plenty about that. One more thing. We don't just have standard rain and sport modes anymore. There's now also a fully customizable user mode. And I think that's brilliant because I can just set that mode up how I like it and never have to touch anything again. So that would be my mode, the one I'd ride with. That's just how I approach motorcycling. It's the way I like to handle it best. Another new thing, which might seem minor but is actually a really handy feature, is the automatic indicator cancellation. It's nothing groundbreaking, but honestly, it's great. And speaking of great, that brings us to the riding experience. They've revised the suspension. Now, revised might be a bit of a stretch, but they've changed the base setup. And since this big piston Showa fork isn't adjustable, changing the base setup is actually a big deal, because that's the setup everyone's going to be riding with. Whether you weigh 50 kilos or 100 kilos, you've got to make it work. Well, 50 kilos is really pushing it, let's say up to 130 kilos. That's the range. So the stock setup really has to be spot on. And probably the most significant change is this. The engine is now Euro 5 Plus compliant. And I can honestly say I didn't notice a thing while riding. The performance figures are still the same: 92 horsepower at 9,500 RPM and 75 Newton meter at 7,250. That hasn't changed. The engine character also feels the same. No difference I could tell. What we do have now, though, is 2 extra kilos due to the new required components. That puts us at 192 kilos ready to ride. Still seriously light. And with that weight, those 92 horses in this class, that's outstanding. The way it pulls, the way it rides, it's just brilliant. And the great thing is, this is a pure 2-cylinder engine with 755 cubic centimeters and a 270-degree crankshaft configuration, which gives it loads of punch down low. In the low and mid-range, it's got brilliant pull, but that doesn't mean it runs out of breath at the top. Not at all. It keeps revving freely and really charges up top as well. So in terms of the engine, it's still the benchmark. They are absolutely leading the pack here. Really, really impressive. And when I sit on it, I feel like I'm on a proper full-size motorbike. It doesn't feel like something small and nimble. It feels grown up. We don't have an ultra-short wheelbase. It's 1,420 millimeters. We don't have a radical steering head angle. It's 25 degrees. That's fairly conservative. And the seat height is a very manageable 795 millimeters. So everything, how should I put it? It's all on the friendly, forgiving side of things. Until now, the one issue I had when riding really hard was that the front end felt a bit vague to me. And I know some people will think, mate, I've ridden this bike for 40,000 kilometers. What do you mean vague front end? But it's just like that. As if you're used to proper sports bikes, then you know there's a certain feel you expect from the front wheel and front end feedback. And that's something the previous version didn't quite deliver for me. But now with the updated suspension setup, I genuinely feel like it's much improved, a lot better. I haven't lost anything in terms of handling either, and I'd say that the superb handling is partly thanks to Honda sticking with a 160 section rear tire rather than going for a 180 like most of the others in this class. It might not look quite as beefy, but in terms of handling, it's definitely an advantage. And when it comes to putting those 92 horses to the ground, that 160 tire handles it no problem at all. There's really no technical need for a 180 section tire. And in return, you get noticeably better handling. And now, in my opinion, you've also got more stability up front, definitely more front end stability. That was clear when I was tearing through the countryside on it. It was honestly spectacular, at times even a bit scary because it got seriously fast. You're really pushing it hard and you never feel underpowered. Sure, on a racetrack or on the Autobahn, that might be a different story. But out here on country roads, you never feel like 92 horsepower pushing 192 kilos is lacking. Now, what we did in the editorial team was a bit of research, a big survey among Hornet riders. This refers to the 2024 model, of course, to find out what kind of experiences people have had. And across the board, that old myth about Honda's reliability, how bulletproof these things are, came up again and again. It seems to be an extremely reliable bike, not just for our kind of 1,000 kilometer tests, but even over 40, 50, 60,000 kilometers. It's cheap to maintain too. The service interval is every 12,000 kilometers. And a standard oil change will only set you back around 100 to 200 euro. So in terms of running costs, it's really affordable and again, extremely reliable. Now, according to the users, one downside is that it's not exactly the best tourer, mainly because it doesn't have a windscreen up front, so there's no wind protection. And when riding two up, the pillion seat is set quite high. So if your passenger is about the same height as you, you end up towering over them and they might not feel all that secure up there. Plus the knee angle is a bit tighter for the passenger. So that's the kind of feedback we got. Mild criticism around long distance comfort and pillion riding. And I thought, yeah, fair enough. But to me, the Hornet 750 is clearly an all-rounder. In fact, I'd say it's a perfect all-rounder, and you'll definitely be able to get aftermarket windscreens, although I do think they often spoil the look a bit. Back in the day when all we had were naked bikes, we just strapped on a massive tank bag, and that was a brilliant wind deflector. So personally, that wouldn't bother me on the Hornet 750. Of course, I should add, we're lucky enough to be in a position where we can pick the perfect bike for each use case. But if you only have one bike, then Yeah, I get it. Touring capability becomes a more serious consideration. That said, this is a bike you can ride forever. You sit in a really relaxed position, everything feels light and intuitive, totally user friendly and forgiving, and still sharp when you want it to be. Now, if we're talking superlatives, the brakes aren't one of them. What have we got here? A 296 millimeters twin disc setup with a radially mounted Nissin caliper. I'd say it's a good brake system, but not world class. Still, it's far from bad either. So honestly, if I wasn't thinking about it, I wouldn't even mention it. It's just unobtrusive, really unobtrusive. The only thing I personally found a bit disappointing, especially since we just did a comparison test with other bikes, is that the Hornet 750 in its standard version doesn't come with a Quickshifter. And that's a shame, because at this point you really get used to riding with one. It just makes things so much smoother. And I've ridden the Hornet 750 with a Quickshifter. It worked brilliantly. I'd absolutely go for it as an add-on, not so much for regular riding, but the moment you're riding aggressively, it really makes a difference. Upshifting isn't the big deal, it's the downshifting on corner entry. When the bike automatically blips the throttle and you can fully focus on your braking and line, that's incredible. I'm convinced it gives you an edge. On every properly executed corner entry, you're gaining 3 or 4 meters and you're saving a ton of mental energy, so I'd seriously recommend it. Personally, I think the 2025 update is brilliant, everything about it. There's nothing I'd say was unnecessary, not at all. It's really great that the front end has become a bit more stable and confidence inspiring. As I said, there'll be plenty of people with the 2024 version who'll think, what's this guy on about? But for me, that bit of extra stability and feedback up front makes a huge difference. And beyond that, I still think it's the benchmark in this class. It's seriously hard to beat. Really impressive. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Hornet 750, whether you're tempted by the 1000 or if maybe the 500 is already enough for you. Subscribe to the channel, stick with us, and ciao for now. See you around. Cheers.